So we're back in the loop. Hey, Sean, back in the loop of just more BS and lies, and it's exhausting, isn't it? Okay, hey Jeffrey, hey Karen, hey Dan, hey, hey Queen, to you too. Hey Dan, that's funny, Queen. That's funny. Thank you for that, I guess. um, that's funny. All right, hey Jeffrey, I don't really think of myself as a queen, but thank you. I love you too. Very sweet. I think of myself as kind of a weirdo, I guess, more than a queen. So how's everybody doing? Um, I thought today because there's not really the news cycle has been like, okay, we have this massive, crazy escalation, then we get this sort of I don't know what's going on. Seems like something is going on that we don't really uh we're not privy to, right? It seems like not only is it we're getting these sort of I mean, clearly we're on the escalation path to get into a full blown war in the Middle East, and I guess Trump is now paranoid that he's going to be assassinated because the Iranians were chanting his transition, and it's supposed to be a plot against him, and he's now building all kinds of stuff to try to insulate himself. So he's clearly afraid that something's going to happen. Um, It's giving Iran till 5 p.m. today or else. Yeah. Okay. So we know where this is going to go, right? I mean, this is just, it's just such a weird, it just seems so, like, I'm going to use an expression that I heard often in the Midwest by my family, and also just a Midwestern expression that was popular when I was, um, growing up, and it's gross. So bear with me. And I will try to make it not quite as disgusting, but poop or get off the pot, right? It's kind of like if we're going to do this, I don't want to do this. I think we should just back away from it, find a way to exit this. But if you're going to do something, then do it or don't do it. This is just making things much more, it's just creating more tension, more chaos. And it seems like this is just the sort of natural way that Trump deals with everything. He kind of takes one foot forward, then he goes backwards, back and forth, and back and forth. And I think maybe either it's an unconscious s- uh, personal strategy, like just how he lives his life, because as soon as he gets pushed back or there's something that he doesn't like, he tries to change the story. And I think because he spent his whole life just being kind of a con man, um, he's used to being able to sort of talk his way out of things. And you can't talk your way out of bombing people and getting into a war and all the crazy stuff he's been doing. You just can't sort of bullshit your way out of it, right? Yeah. Um, and it's one of those things where it's like, over this last, I mean, what is it, February? It was February 28th when this whole thing started. It's now, we're in July, and it's every week there's this kind of back and forth. We're going to bomb them. Now we're going to have peace talks. And it's like, just make up your mind. Are you going to do it or are you not going to do it? I mean, I don't personally think we should do it, but this whole thing of kind of drawing it out, I don't know if it's to sort of wear people down, psychologically, so that when it does really happen, people are just so tired of the whole thing they can't pay attention, or if it's just, uh, I think it's just the way Trump operates personally. Um, hey James. Hey, Mary. Hey, Michelle. Hey, D. Beeksma. And it's at some point, it's this is going to fail, and things are going to break loose, and there's going to be no going back. And uh, you know, at what point does that happen? I mean, last week I think we were talking about everything was kind of escalating, and people were saying, we have only 5 days, 10 days left of our supply of oil, and we're going to be in a major, recession or depression. That's what you were hearing on the internet. And I kind of felt like, well, I I figured because I got the feeling it's gonna happen in the fall, there'll be this sort of slowdown again. Um, I don't know what the solution is at this point other than, I mean, it doesn't seem like how can there be a solution to this that doesn't involve escalation because the Iranians are not gonna stop controlling the Strait of Hormuz and, you know, I mean, that's just the reality of it. Why would they give that up? I mean, that's their only, like, real leveraging point. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Kathy. So, this is, uh this is just like a Groundhog's Day situation where you just feel like you wake up every day. Are we bombing people or are we pretending that we're in peace talks? Um, it's exhausting and it's terrible for the world. It's terrible for Iran. It's terrible for everybody here. And as we do that, things just completely start to dwindle down. Things are just getting not taken care of, right? We're not actually dealing with our own domestic stuff at all, uh, except for that they're trying to kind of slowly take our rights away more and more. Trump is calling Democrats communists and stuff so that I guess they can try to get ahead of that. I just rewatched this movie called Big Eyes. I saw it a long time, like when it came out. My husband hadn't seen it, and we watched it, and it's really watching it from this time frame is interesting because I don't know if you know the story of like the Keane paintings. They were kind of popular. I'll read your, but um, the deal was that the the woman who painted them married this guy who was just a shyster. I mean, he claimed to be an artist. He never painted, he never did anything, and basically co-opted her art. And he was like a real kind of con man, like a salesman, and he blew the whole thing up and made her paintings very famous. But he took credit for it. And at the end of the story, basically, after he's trying to basically take ownership of all her stuff because she couldn't deal with it anymore and left him. Um, she sues him for slander because he called her crazy for saying that they were her paintings. The judge basically puts out 2 easels and 2 sets of art supplies and says, "Whoever can paint the painting is gonna win the case," right? Because he just tries to bullshit his way through the whole court, and he's talking about how great he is and how many people he knows, and it's just like a Trump thing. And it was like, wow, this is just kind of exactly how Trump operates. Um, it's a narcissistic, puffed up personality. It was such an interesting thing because he actually seemed to believe his own bullshit, and, he actually got offended when people said negative things about the art, like it was an attack on his character and his name. It's like, he didn't even make stuff. It wasn't even his thing, but he just co-opted it, okay? So, he's in the court for hours talking about how great he is and all the people that kissed his butt and all this, and finally the judge goes, "No, just show us who can do it." He sits there the whole time. He can't paint. She makes a painting. He pretends to have an injury at the last 2 minutes of it. "Oh, I hurt my shoulder. I can't do it. I can't paint." And, of course, she wins the case. And it's like at some point, the rubber meets the road, right? In every situation with people like this. At some point, there is a situation in which you just can't bullshit your way out of it. And I feel like, most of us have woke up to the fact that, Trump is a bullshit artist. He's just a con man, who doesn't know what he's doing, and he's degrading emotionally, physically, psychologically every second of the day, and it's getting harder for him to keep the bullshit, uh, factory, you know, coherent. Um, but there still seems to be a minority of people who haven't figured it out. And at some point, when we get into this place where we're in full scale war, which will happen, I have no doubt, and there's a global war, there's global, economic issues. Is that going to be when the rubber meets the road and he can no longer bullshit his way because the actual encroachment of reality hits people that are sort of still in the mind cult that he's something he's not? I think so. I think that's the moment when people are gonna wake up. Okay, Jeff, I had a bad panic attack last night. I thought I was having a heart attack. Then I wake up and he's threatening annihilation again. He's playing with lives, and I think my panic comes from observing and feeling helpless. So I popped 4 clonazepam last night. It's escalating as a fever pitch, and no one cares. I agree with you, Jeff. And this is the thing, you know, this whole thing where he's threatening to annihilate a civilization and kill all these people. And we are just like, we're in this car with a crazy man driving it that's drunk and psychotic and heading us into like a giant tree trunk. And it just, and there feels like there's nothing that we can do. Okay. But I have to say, I don't think that's true entirely because I think at some point, like I said, we will hit the tree. And when we hit the tree, everybody in the car is gonna, if they're sleeping and they trust the driver, are gonna wake up, and that's when things will change. Where I am worried about the midterms because it seems like already there are moves to really kind of create a lot of chaos, and it's just new ideas constantly coming from the regime to try to find a way to throw a bunch of dust on that situation and create all kinds of mishigas, all kinds of chaos coming up because he knows if the Democrats win, he is going to be in trouble. Um, However, here's my other side of this. Oh God, hold on. Oh man, allergies. My other thought here though is we have had this sort of the same thing that's happening with the war, where we make one step forward, we go, that's been happening in our political system. Hey, Latonia, um, for I don't since I as long as I've been alive, pretty much. But certainly escalating when Reagan came into power. That you get this sort of breakdown of taking apart the social safety nets, giving more money to the wealthy, creating this massive income inequality in our country to the point where it's worse now than it was during the Gilded Age. And, you have it all sort of being sold to the average person, like, well, we shouldn't give any help or support because, capitalism is the greatest thing. And don't you ever talk about socialism or communism because it's evil, because the wealthy and powerful people don't want there to be, they don't want to share their toys. They don't want to share their resources. And there's been this campaign against any kind of anything. I mean, look, even Social Security, we pay into Social Security. That's our money, but it's been being lifted and stolen from us. That Social Security pot is not, it's not a handout. It's money that gets paid through your checks and your work and it's basically, a federally funded, um, what do they use? A pension program, right? That we pay for, that we pay our own self forward in the future. But that's, I mean, they're trying to take that away from people. And it's just like healthcare and all these things and affordability. I guess 95% of people agree. That's a huge percentage. I mean, that the 5% are probably people that are in the upper 1% or the upper 10% of the population. Um, Affordability, 95% agree that this is a problem, that they can't afford things. People are struggling financially. And yet, and this is why you see this move towards socialism. This happens every time. In the 30s, there was a move towards communism and socialism then. And then in the 50s, people got punished for that, right? And with, all the stuff that happened in Hollywood and all over, the whole gosh, the names, escape McCarthyism situation happened. And, you know, this whole fetish that the wealthy have created this sort of fetishized sort of hatred towards anything that's anti-capitalist. And you can't rethink that because of course you can't, because they have all the powers, they have all the levers of power, and they don't want it to change. But the problem with this is that it's going to change whether they like it or not, and whether we like it or not. This is a non-sustainable situation as technology changes and things are rapidly developing in that arena. So capitalism, if it doesn't, we don't rethink it on some level, it will be the end of us basically, and we will be suffering dearly for the fact that we haven't rethought it. The thing I was going to say, the other thing, I'm sure you guys have heard about the explosive diarrhea situation with the parasites, right? You know what? That's another thing. When Doge went in and did all those cuts, right? The first thing I thought was great. I mean, the reason we have all of these different agencies is to protect us. There used to be a time in America before we had all these different agencies overlooking our food, like the FDA, who go and inspect meat. People would die from buying stuff at the store because it would be, it would have parasites, it would be infected with things. And the reason we don't know what bags of lettuce or what bags of um, fruits and vegetables are contaminated is because the cuts have happened and we can't trace it anymore. And how is that good for the farmers? Because now what are you going to do? You're not going to buy any bag lettuce. You're not going to buy anything that's prepackaged. And all those farms, all those people who are producing that, who are not producing stuff that is contaminated, are going to be punished as well. This is, everything about this regime is so freaking stupid that you have to just and so self-destructive that and so small-minded. It's really because they really want to continue to suck like vampires off of everybody else and just let us die so that they can have more and more and more. It's a pathological, psychological mental health problem. It's greed and it's just pure evil. And we're seeing it play across the board, trying to basically killing Americans by not or making them very sick and eventually killing Americans because we've dismantled our healthcare system. We've dismantled all our social programs. We're slowly we've dismantled all our healthcare industry itself too. We've dismantled all of the systems that come in place to basically check our food and make sure that everything is running smoothly. The CDC can't really track things like they used to. We've left who we got rid of USAID, and now there's this horrible outbreak in Africa, and hundreds of thousands of people have died already because of this. And climate change is getting worse and escalating, and we get dismantle NOAA. We take the boats out that are trying to monitor the oceans. Why are they doing all this? I mean, why? Why all of these things that basically are going to save and protect people because they don't want to? And that's the simple answer. If you read any of that stuff about the dark enlightenment crap that basically, Musk is a subscriber to, it's very dark, it's very fascistic, and it's also very, very, like, Nazi-like, and it's very disturbed kind of, I encourage you to look into the Dark Enlightenment stuff. It's really, really deeply disturbing. So and now we're threatening the world. We've gone into Venezuela. We're bombing people in Iran. Russia's gone insane. They're like seem to be planning to, you know, have an attack into. They supposedly want to do some kind of operation in Poland to test the metal of NATO, and then their plans are to go into the Baltic nations and Romania. I just heard, and that I had heard that this summer that was going to be part of it too, and expand their war there. And the Europeans are under threat. We're under threat by our own government. I mean, people are afraid to speak out because they think, all these uh, basic warehouses that they've built up all over the country were under attack from that. Are they going to start coming after people like me and you? Yeah, probably. I had the dream a long time ago. I'm well aware of that. And then you have like, I mean, when you think about just the massive level of evil and destruction that is occurring on a day-to-day basis, it is overwhelming. And it does make you wonder, how are we going to stop this train? And my worry here too is even if the Democrats do win the House and the Senate, right? Even if by some miracle, no matter how much, bluster and sand they throw on the midterm election, somehow the Democrats win. What are the Democrats going to do? That's my other problem is what are they going to do to stand up? How are they going to become the opposition party and right the ship? Because historically, they haven't done a very good job of that, right? And that's the other problem we have in our country is we have this freight train of basically of just evil, fascistic freight train that's had its seed all the way back for years and years has been growing. And then we have a neoliberal party that is basically, on the train. They may not be running it, but they haven't really openly created an opposition to it because they too believe that capitalism should be structured in this way where the wealthy are and powerful have more power. It benefits those in power, and they are in power. So you only have this small group of sort of progressive Democrats and independents like Mondami, like Bernie Sanders, like AOC. Elizabeth Warren could be kind of on the margins there. There are a number of them, right, threaded throughout the Democratic Party, but they are always suppressed and marginalized and made to be like, oh, they're communists, they're socialists. Socialism is evil. Socialism is evil because if you're, a billionaire, you don't want to pay taxes. And billionaires pay like something like less than I think sometimes they pay less than 3% tax, and most of us pay between 30 and 50% tax. They don't want to share their toys. They don't want to distribute their wealth. Um, and so they're going to work hard to really, really demonize the people that can actually help us. And that is what's happening now. Okay, I'm going to read people's things here. Let's see. Okay, Lindy. Trump puts younger, beautiful women on his staff. Why? Is he trying to show he really respects women? He contradicts himself all the time. He's gross and when he talks. I think he puts the beautiful women on his staff because he staffs his people not based on their abilities or their experience, but based on how if you were in a movie and you cast them, basically. So if you're a casting director, right, what would be the best, who would you put up front? You're going to have the beautiful lady at the front who, does all your bidding and can be shiny and look good. I think that's why he puts beautiful young women because he likes to look at them and he objectifies women, and because it's makes for good TV. He won't hire people he thinks are. And he will hire some people like Stephen Miller who can help him strategize, but he doesn't put Stephen Miller up front because Stephen Miller is not a good looking man. So that's what it is really. Hey Jeff. Oh yeah, my cards on the midterms are horrible. Oh God. I mean. I think even if they win, even if Democrats win, it's gonna be constant, like, throwing it's gonna be a mess even if I mean, we have to vote, obviously, we have to vote in massive numbers, and we have to sort of flood the zone with people who support the Democrats, even though I'm not sure they're gonna become the heroes that we wish they would be. At least it's a step in the right direction, right? And it would be some kind of resistance that would help to kind of but I feel like this is one of the things I think that kind of helped Trumpism, right? Is the fact that the Democrats have been just so to be generous, I've heard people say they don't know how to wield power. Okay. I personally think it's a little more sinister than that. I think it's that once they get in power, you know, and they have what they want. It's more about keeping their power, pleasing their donors, and keeping the status quo, going along with whatever, like uh, not wanting to check people in power who are serving with them because they want to keep their own power and they don't want to rock the boat. Um, I mean, that's probably even too generous, I think. I think some of them are probably corrupt as well. And not all of them. I mean, look at Eric Swalwell, apparently, has really, I mean, anybody that goes into politics has probably got a personality disorder to begin with. And I feel like the way our system should be set up should not probably be by politicians. Politicians shouldn't be running things. That sounds crazy, but if we were going to rethink our system, I personally feel like maybe there should be sort of a board that kind of, you anybody who wants to serve would, go through a series of battery of psychological tests and intellectual tests, and you put your name in a hat, and then maybe you would just be. I mean, this is just off the top of my head. Maybe you would be called into service like you would if you were on a jury pool, but there would be just uh, you know, a higher kind of bar to serve, and that, it would be constantly rotated out so that you couldn't have this kind of thing happen. It's another idea that just came to me. I don't know. But, the people that seem to want to go into leadership roles like this, they're often, unfortunately, there are some good ones who really have passion and want to change things for the better, but they're not the majority of people, unfortunately. Hey, Shannon. Hey, Katie. Denise, you were spot on you noted about Deborah's phone and the 500 degrees. Okay, after I got chills on it, it was so logical, even if someone is not psychic, it is logical. I'm trying to think of what you're talking about. Noted that about Deborah's phone, about the 500 degrees. Oh, are you talking? You must be talking about, I don't know. Jeff, I don't know. I think it's kind of ringing some bells, but are you talking about on the cosmic fold? Um, okay, let me know about that. You are correct. Capitalism without regulation is tyranny. Absolutely, 100%. And that's where we're at. It's just all the guardrails have been just slowly eroded over the last, 50 years. Okay, purposely incompetent. Agreed, Jeff. Okay, Jackie. I had a grocery order dropped off yesterday. Forgot about the C diff until after I ordered it. Oh no. It was too late and I had to throw it away. Oh, that's awful. Oh god. I know that I didn't know about it. I bought some, bagged stuff to make stir fry. And my husband was like, "Oh no, don't use that because that's, and we don't know. I mean, it may have been fine, but you can't go on. There used to be places where you could look online. This particular batch has been, infected or whatever. And, so if they trace that kind of stuff. And now the only reason we know about it isn't because of our government. It's because doctors are reporting it and there's no way to trace it. COVID is back. Yes, and new iteration. Curtis Yarvin is on a college tour. Oh, great. That's lovely. Infect the minds of the youth. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Karen. Jackie. More than half the Dems are AIPAC beneficiaries. Well, I mean, there you go. Hey, Marianne. Radiant Gems. Hello, Radiant Gems. Okay, Deep Expect. Good point. I have had a plethora of campaign phone calls from the right and left in my office. And my two questions are: one, what are you going to do about the corruption? And two, what is your stance on supporting genocide in the Middle East? Those are excellent questions. Those are the two most important questions. I mean, top of mind, right? You know, I was listening to this, I don't know, it was like this guy who was interviewed. I think it was on the Midas Touch, but it wasn't the regular Midas Touch. It was, somebody who does like a weekly thing. I don't remember the name of the guy, but he was interviewing this guy who wrote a book. Again, I don't remember the guy either guy because I was busy doing other things. So I was just sort of listening to it in the background. Who had written a book that's sort of all about, Democrats. He's obviously a Democrat. I would not. I used to identify myself as a Democrat a long time ago. And probably about 10 years ago, I kind of gave up that. I mean, I would never vote for Republican, and I would probably only vote Democrat. So I guess I am a Democrat, but if there was another option, if there was, like a Democratic Socialist uh, party and they were legitimately uh, capable of winning elections, I would vote that, right? But there isn't. So he was talking about how i- i- basically how he came up with this sort of like what I was doing here, where ideas about how to kind of he had the same thought that the mind abhors a vacuum really. And basically the Democrats, they need to really think deeper about this and do things like which we've been, talk about this for 10 years. They need to sort of expand the courts. They need to do some very systemic changing. And he got a lot of pushback, obviously, from the neoliberal Democrats. And I guess the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, is going to run for president. And he sat down with the governor of California in like some kind of interview situation. And the governor had told him, Gavin Newsom had told him, well, I wasn't for that at all. I don't think we should expand the courts and blah, 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 blah. But after reading your book, I started thinking, well, yeah, we probably do have to do something. And it's like, why is it taking, you know, why did not, why did people not figure this out, in 2021 when Biden became president? I mean, it was pretty clear that the Supreme Court was a captured entity and that basically it was radicalized and super right and that it was going to do all the horrible things it's done. I mean, it wasn't like a big surprise for people here, right? Why is it taking some guy to write a book and confronting people in the Democratic Party to do their freaking job and think about reorganizing the system to get the grift and the graft out and to actually weed out all of these problems. I mean, it just seems like the Democratic Party has fallen into this sort of doublespeak thing where and this is true of Biden too. And I don't hate Biden. I mean, I think he was fine. If it was if we were in a normal time frame, he would have been a decent president. We just weren't in a normal time frame. And he, I don't think, was equipped to understand the peril the democracy itself was in. But um I mean, maybe that's too generous. I don't know, but that was always my thought. Is he just doesn't get this? He's just not getting it because he's been in government so long. He doesn't understand because he's been inside of it. He's like he's got he's somebody with cancer who doesn't understand that he's got cancer and he's living his life as if he's not sick. Right? That was kind of how I saw Biden in his presidency. But now I lost my train of thought. Uh, why is it that we get with the Democrats here? Um, sort of this two-sided thing where the economy, we're gonna make things better for working people. And then on the other side, they are basically taking money from PACs and, you know, um, really doing neoliberal kind of policy where they're basically destroying unions, sending jobs. I mean, just by their policy. I'm not saying they are like totally responsible for this, but they're basically capitulating to the the 1%, right? You look at someone like Clinton. I mean, that sort of defines his whole time in office. You know, he did he basically just signed all the treaties and all the stuff that came before him that Bush had and Reagan had basically set up. So he didn't actually think about that. He just went forward with these neoliberal policies, and then it became sort of the thing. Like the Democrats just basically are like Reagan Republicans, and they do all the same things that the Republicans do, this but just not as extreme. And then they talk to the people, they parrot all the things, and then they don't actually do the things for the people. Um, that's where we're at with the Democrats, right? I mean, they're not actively trying to destroy the world, but they're not actively trying to save it either. And this is what I worry about. You know, I worry about that the fact that we've gone back and forth with this clear trajectory that we're on. And every time we've hit it, like, so for example, the Al Gore, George Bush stuff, right? I remember looking at the charts of both Al Gore and George Bush and doing all this comparison of who was going to win that election because I got this really bad feeling that George Bush was somehow going to end up being president. And when I looked at everybody's charts, I thought, well, Al Gore looks like he wins, but George Bush slightly more somehow, George Bush is going to end up being president and Al Gore is going to win the popular vote. And I came to me, oh, I think that has happened historically before, where someone won the popular vote and someone else, won the electoral college. And so that was my prediction. And I couldn't believe that was my prediction because it seemed so ridiculous at the time. It never happened in my lifetime. Yet that happened. What we watched in that election was the dismantling of democracy right in front of our eyes, because basically it turns out really Al Gore would have won. He won the popular vote, but he would have won the electoral college if the Supreme Court hadn't stopped the count in Florida, right? Okay, so what happened after that? No, we didn't, the Democrats didn't get their hair on fire and go, the Supreme Court just handed the election to someone. This wasn't a free and fair election. This, he was robbed of his of the presidency. This is wrong. We need to rethink this. This shouldn't be. We should get rid of the electoral college. No, they just went, oh, okay, well, we'll just move on then. And then George Bush comes into power. And what does he do? He sets up all these black sites. He starts a war, under the, pretext of 9/11, which has nothing to do with the people that attack us. Just, and we get into this 20-year war. He tortures, he basically allows torture, and not just allows torture, sets up torture sites with Dick Cheney, right? And on the other side of that, what happens? When people are like, are you gonna hold them accountable? Are we gonna prosecute the people, the Bush administration for breaking the Geneva Convention? Nancy Pelosi, then Speaker of the House, says, no, we're not gonna do anything like that. No, we're not gonna prosecute anybody. And it's like, this is bad. You're setting up a precedent that says, you do whatever you want. We got your back here. Even if we're on the other team, we're not going to actually hold you accountable. And the Democrats, when you look at the history of what has happened, each time the Republican Party has pushed the democracy further and further out of order and into this fascistic, really, really, you know, I don't even know what to call it, like plutocratic, oligarchic structure. They have not only not done any resistance, real resistance that would actually stop it from occurring, they just turned away and pretended like it didn't happen. And that is how we got Trump. So, and that is how we got Trump again. So, I mean, think about it. He was impeached twice, right? The second impeachment, he wasn't convicted. Okay. He wasn't convicted. If they had just convicted him, he wouldn't have been able to run again. So even in that, even when you got to the rubber hit the road and they had the opportunity to do the right thing, they didn't. And I'm not saying the Democrats, in that case, it was Republicans too, but we've seen this pattern. And what I worry about is, and this is just, is we go back into that cycle and it just continues to degrade the democracy to the point where we really do become a full-blown authoritarian state because the Democrats just won't do anything. They won't actually, you know, do tribunals and actually hold people accountable. And they win and they'll just pretend like, okay, they'll do some investigations and they'll put on a nice show, but nothing will really come of it. And they'll just be more concerned about keeping their own jobs and their own personal motivations and not the bigger picture. Because the people we have serving as Democrats right now, that seems to be their thing. I mean, you just had that guy in Maine. The guy, I can't remember, was his name Garrett? I can't remember his name. I paid very little attention to him, but turns out, he's a clear blown, like full on narcissist. Yet he's going around saying, "Oh, we the healthcare and all this sort of Bernie Sanders talking points." But clearly, and I don't know why he chose that particular stream to jump into. Maybe he felt it was more popular. Is that it seems like a lot of these people who are involved in government are not actually ideologues. They're actually just people who, wherever they live, they want power and they just sort of jump into whatever stream it is to get that power. And then they just sort of ride the coast, they coast it out, and they just say what, they think people wanna hear, and then they do whatever they want. And I hate to be so cynical, but at this point, I feel very cynical even about the Democrats, which, I used to feel like they're the lesser of two evils, and at this point, I feel like, they're just sort of like, you know, the woman in the abusive marriage who doesn't ever leave, you know what I'm saying? They know what they're involved in and they keep taking it and they don't do anything to stop it. And their kids are getting beaten up in front of them and they just they take a blind eye to it. That's the feeling the situation has. Like we're hostages in the system. And that's why, Jeff he feels that way and why we all feel that way, right? So what is it going to take for this change? I mean, I feel like we're opposed to political solution at this point. I feel like, is there really a political solution to this situation? I I'm I think we've watched our institutions slowly degrade over the last 50 years to the point where they're collapsing now. And Trump in the last year has just managed to take a hammer to everything so that even the little bit of institutional structure we had to fight this is pretty much gone. Okay. Because even if and I hate to be so bleak, but so even if the Democrats do win, right, and they take power in the midterms, not only, okay, maybe they'll rise to the occasion. Maybe they all rise to the occasion and they do all the work and they hold Trump accountable and then they go in there and they investigate him and all the stuff. And with Trump, he'll just pardon himself and everyone else, right? I mean, the Supreme Court gave him total blank check to do whatever he wants. Okay, so that's already taken off the table, right? So are they gonna come up with a new thing? Are they gonna be smart enough and think outside the box to actually find some way to really hold people accountable? Because it will just then be a show, and that in itself will be a problem. Because then once we see how broken the system is and that they can't really hold him accountable or anyone else, then who's gonna come along that's gonna be worse than Trump? Somebody will, right? Okay, now here's the other situation, right? And I mean, again, I hate to be so bleak, but okay, so the Democrats win. They do all the things. They're investigating him, whatever, all that stuff, right? They're giving him hell and they're going to impeach him and they're going to actually convict him, get him kicked out. Okay. Um, what, what is, do they have? I mean, uh, uh, will they be able to get subpoenas? Will they be able to actually do these investigations? Will they actually be able to have the power at this point to do all of the things? Because they're getting obstruction at every turn, and the courts are not holding them accountable. The Trump administration. So you see, the break, the break is already there, and it's being exploited by the Trump regime. And I'm not saying that this is maybe there'll be some way that I'm not a lawyer, right? And the Congress is full of lawyers, so maybe they'll find some creative legal strategy to get around all of these breaks. But those things worry me. I mean, even if we get them in power, will they be able to do the job at this point? You know? So okay, so say Trump gets impeached and convicted. Before he's impeached and convicted, he could just pardon himself for all of the crimes that he's committed, and all the people around him. Now you could say that I've heard Frank Falucci, my husband listens to him, say that people behind the scenes are talking about tribunals and like a sort of Nuremberg situation at the end of this regime, which I think that's the only thing that would actually maybe that's political that could actually do some good or actually maybe turn the tide and back towards a democracy. But if you do that, and then you've got this loophole where he can pardon himself, then federally, you basically are kind of screwed. You can't really do anything. So the lawyers will have to figure out, well, can they try him in state courts? Can they try these guys in? But we shouldn't be in the situation where you get to blank pardon people. That in itself is insane. You shouldn't be in a situation where everything that Trump does now is considered to be, you know, because he's the president, he gets to do it. I mean, the this unitary executive theory that's gotten totally out of hand and really, is basically corrupting the democracy into like this sort of kingship. That shouldn't even have ever occurred. And now we're in this clusterfuck of situations where basically when you look at all the chess moves, you're gonna have to get creative to fix it. It's not gonna be simple. And, you know, and all the simple moves, all the way across the board, all the things that should have been done are now historically part of our problem, because the Democrats didn't do their job. And now I personally don't trust them to do their job. And I think a lot of the American people don't trust them to do their job. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. I mean, we have to bet on them, whether we like it or not, right? But this is the situation we're in, and whether they can even be seated, and whether we can actually have a free and fair election, that's a whole other problem. Because these guys they've been given so much leeway. This regime has got cleared the path for just continuing to break more and more stuff. That by now to the midterms, um, they're probably going to figure out new obstacles to put in play, including, and I really think I know I know that, there are theories that, Trump doesn't wanna go full-blown war before, the midterms and kinda crash the economy, but, he did say to Zelensky, "Oh, well, now that you're in war, you can't get out of power." Hey, and that's a good idea. I mean, we've always voted through war times. It's not really an issue. However, people tend traditionally to kind of now, obviously, he's not on the ballot, right? So it doesn't really apply, but what if we have a crisis in the country because we are in a horrible war and we are being like, in Iran, we start to really pound them and then they start to, you know, send missiles our way and we are under attack or something like that happens, right? Well, then maybe that would make people want to vote even more. But then maybe you could say, "Oh, well, we have to can't you just vote by mail." "Oh, but you can't vote by mail because, it has to be," and all these laws that have been in place. I don't know, but I wouldn't put anything past them that they have come up with some kind of crazy ass loophole strategy to keep themselves in power that I can't think of because I'm not psychotic. But um, that they could put us in the point of crisis that makes it like, well, it's not safe for people to go to because we're under whatever. And, then they've destroyed all the other places or ways to vote. Or people go and vote in great numbers and the Democrats have a huge landslide and they say, oh, well, this is just, that's not right, and it doesn't match the poll, and blah, 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 and we're gonna have a recount, and they just continuously throw whatever kind of, uh, mishegas they can in the situation so that to make it so hard for the Democrats to be seated that by the time they are seated, you know, Trump has already and his team of psychos have found some kind of way to jerry-rig the situation and put, uh, the House and the Senate into a situation where they're even more, de you know, decapitated than they already are. Now, I'm not saying they'll get away with that, and I'm not saying that that's 100% true, but these are what I worry about is that we're really on the precipice, and this is like to me, this is like the house is on fire and you have a garden hose, and, it's just not enough, you know? And, you know, and I worry that, taking that garden hose to the burning house, that people are gonna lose their the it's gonna people are gonna lose faith that there can be any kind of opposition, that there is any hope. I wish people would start thinking outside the box more because I feel like if we don't think outside the box, if everyone pins their hope on the midterms, they're gonna be disappointed, I feel like. That's my worry. So even if they win, I feel like it's gonna be a long road, to hoe, and I don't know that, there's just a political we have to, as the people, get involved in this and demand that they do the things, and not just the things like holding them accountable, but the things like changing the rules and the laws and actually, holding people accountable, but also how do we fix this structurally so that this cannot happen again? Because every time there's been a breach, the Democrats have let that like it's like somebody's been pounding holes in your house and there's all this garbage coming in and the Democrats are like, "Oh, well, we'll just go to the next room and we'll ignore that hole right here." And this is why our house is falling down right now. So I blame the Democrats too. And I'm sorry, but I do. Because they Nancy Pelosi is the one who decided not to, from what I know. Maybe she was representing the majority of the Democrats, but that was the decision not to hold Bush accountable, which should have happened. And the excuse is, "Oh, well, he would have made torn the country apart." You know what? The people want people to fight. They want actually people to be action oriented. They want people to actually do the things and do the right things. And what's happened is people have lost faith in the Democrats because they haven't, and because they've been so feckless, right? So, and this is unfortunately also probably why people thought Trump, who were uneducated about how the system works and maybe what the Republican history was, why they believed Trump. Because he's like, "I'm an outsider. I'm going to do it. I'm a populist. I'm going to solve all these problems." And for people that were maybe ignorant or maybe they were, desperate, they believed him. And there you go. Okay. Hey, Jackie, a lot of Dems voted to give our military to Israel. Really? Fucking hell. Oh my god. So this is the problem, right? I mean, what the fuck is that? I mean, why would anybody vote to do that? Why would our taxpayer dollars, like, go to Israel, who is look, I mean, who is basically committing, like, genocide, right? Who's committing genocide and bombing people and seems to have no interest in a two-state solution with Palestine at all. There was a time when they did, but there is no desire for that whatsoever. And they not only don't want to have a two-state solution, they want to expand into other, from what I'm hearing, and want to continue to expand their boundaries, which is not part of the deal. Like, you don't get to do that. That's what Russia's doing. And they're not right either. Hey, Colin, and why would we do that? Why? Because, why? Because they're getting paid off. They're getting paid off. And that's the only thing you can take from that. And this is the problem, Jackie. Hey, Colin, Latonia, Venus and Mercury will be retrograde around the midterm, so it will be the circus, huh? I didn't even think about that. That's an interesting point because when Mercury is retrograde, I mean, Mercury's not always bad. Venus is generally not great retrograde at all, ever, but, Mercury retrograde has some positive things. Mercury retrograde is a great time not to buy a car. You don't wanna buy a car or sign a document, but it's a great time to go on a vacation because generally you'll end up going back there later. It's also a good time to gamble if you're a gambler because the odds are better in your favor. Not, you're not gonna necessarily always win, but it is a little bit better. Um, but Mercury retrograde means you have to do it again. So that just goes with exactly what we're talking about. You know that there are gonna be recounts. Maybe even the whole election itself will be put up into some kind of blown up to, well, that wasn't, whatever bullshit Trump pulls. Um, and it kind of implies that it won't be that won't be the end of it if Mercury is retrograde during the midterms. Thank you for that, Latonia. Dino. Dynamo. Hey, General. Jeff, yeah, Latonia of Vegas really said the same thing. Wow. Ingrid, hello. I didn't even really look at that. I was looking at the eclipses. I haven't really looked at the date so much yet. Jeff, like LOL, if you're constantly be president, I don't know what that. Hey Kathy, vote the majority out and we can end Citizens United. That's the first thing that has happened, right? Is Citizens United has to go. But you know what just happened, unfortunately, is the fucking Supreme Court just expanded that. They just said not only do you not have to do PACs, no, just rich people can give as much money as they want. So they keep making it worse. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Yeah, we got to get rid of Citizens United. We have to get rid of the Supreme. We have to find a way to like hold the Supreme Court accountable. There needs to be like some kind of an ethical board or something that can kick them off if they're being, if they're being bribed and stuff, which they clearly, some of them we know for a fact are. Hey, Marianne, term limits might help. That's what people have been saying for a long time. It could. It could. The way that the government is structured now, though, it would be problematic, and that's why it hasn't happened. Because in order to become the Speaker of the House or to get into leadership roles in Congress, you have to have been there for a while. So um, we'd have to rethink if we did term limits. There would have to be like some structural changes to how the other leadership roles. And the problem is too, if you don't have anybody in there for a long time, then like there are committees like the Judiciary Committee and all these other committees that have like institutional knowledge from people that have been on it for a long time. Then you'd have to rebrief everybody, get them all up to speed, and you might end up wasting a lot of people's time because there is no institutional knowledge. So I think that's been the problem with the term limits. But you're not, I think term limits would bring in maybe other structural changes that would have to happen in order for it to work. Okay, you saw it in the cosmic fold. All right. Oh, I didn't know you were there, Jeff. That's cool that you showed up. Okay. Jackie, so I watched a podcast where they said in 2 weeks, Texas and Oklahoma are going to be under over. I heard that too. I heard that too. I saw that same podcast where they were saying it was going to be like 100 and between 100 and 120 degrees, some insane thing like that. Um, I don't know. I I mean, the heat dome, I guess. I mean, when is it gonna end, the heat dome? That's another thing. It seems like it's here where I live, I think we're kind of at one of the edges of it, and so, basically, it's really hot, and the other unsettled air from, like, the high pressure system from the north keeps hitting our like, the edge of it, and we get these massive, insane uh, really, really crazy, like, electrical storms that are just deluges of water and crazy, like, lightning and thunder. Uh, so I don't know. I don't know when it's gonna end. It seems like it's been going on for a long time already. EJ, Jackie, if this deadly heat wave hits, they're talking about grids going down all around the US by a generator. Yes. I think we talked about that, like, in the spring. Get a generator and also get, if you can, if you have room somewhere, you should grow some things. grow what you can grow, even if you can't grow a lot, just grow something to learn how to cultivate, some food because, um, now is a great reason, right? We have this outbreak of, like, disgusting, parasites, uh, in bagged vegetables and stuff. And, this is gonna become more of a problem because we have dismantled the systems that kinda kept us safe in our, like, food safety kind of, chains of, like, I don't it's not the meat inspecting, but there's all kinds of different, things that have been dismantled that have been basically tracking, our food, illnesses that are being, through contagion, and they are not there anymore. So, uh, if you have your own little garden, even just that in itself, you know where your food is grown. You know that you've grown it organically. You know that you've got it under control. You have, y- you know, you have more power that way. And certainly, I think in the fall, we are going to hit it. I think we're going to hit. There's just this whole back and forth thing with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz and stuff. You know, even if this keeps being sort of, we can get a couple ships out every once in a while, that we are in a serious problem. From what everything I've heard, the strategic reserves are very, very low. And at a certain point, it's like, unless it goes back to full normal operating kind of whatever, and the other thing is, that's another thing. The fucking Trump administration or regime, they just cut back all of the green, why didn't they, I mean, solar power, if we had enough solar power, if we had wind power and all these other things, and we had actually continued the program to make people, to encourage people to, get electric cars and all this stuff, we wouldn't be in this situation either, right? So every single thing that's been, all of these idiotic things, uh, cutting off the nose despite the face in every single direction. I mean, either it is diabolically evil or it is insanely stupid, um, or a combination of the two. Okay, yeah, buy a generator for sure, some kind of generator. If you can't afford a big one or a great one, just even a little one can help with fans and stuff. Denise, do you feel Mitch passed? Yeah, I haven't really felt into it. I mean, I know he's supposed to, I can ask the cards that. Um, I guess he's kind of brain dead. That makes sense. But let's see. And his wife, I guess, went back to China. I heard while he's in the hospital. You know, struggling to supposedly survive, which makes you wonder if she went back to China, maybe he has died. Right. So let's see. Has Mitch McConnell already transitioned? The cards say he hasn't, but not right now. But I definitely feel like he's already popping out of his body, like meaning he's in the process. Like I can feel like he's not totally, and this happens when people are in comas, actually. It's pretty common. It's hard to tell if somebody in a coma is dead or not, because what happens is, they don't stay in body. They actually they start to separate from their body, and, I had a friend who worked as a psychic too back a long time ago in the early '90s who, She had been hit by a car driving her bike, and she was in a coma for, like, 8 months or something, and she basically the way she described it was she was just all over the astral plane and just, zooming all over the place and had all these experiences, not all of them good, sounded like a lot of them were scary, but anyway, um and every time I felt into it when people were in comas, it's like they're not fully in their body. They once they go into the coma, it's like they pop out and they really don't come back in until the body is getting ready to either if they're gonna come back and their body is gonna be able to be recovered, then they'll sort of reunite. But in general, it's just, once the body is dead, then they just get released from that sort of, you know, halfway kind of almost purgatory kind of state where they're stuck between the living and the kind of transition point. But I don't think he's long for this world for sure. I think if I have a feeling that he probably will fully pass. I just got August, so in the next few weeks, I think he will be gone. Um, yeah, he's not coming back. I don't feel that. But I don't know that he's technically, been, you know, fully like he's probably being kept on machines. That's what it feels like, breathing machines and whatever. But he's not. His soul is no longer in his body. Latonia, Biden should have expanded the court. 100%. I 100% agree with you. I can never figure out why he had Merrick Garland and did not prosecute Trump. And also why he didn't expand the court. And there's just no good reason for that. Corporate dump, it's got to go. I agree. Agree with you, Latonia. Hey, mate. Corporate greed has to go 100%. Deep Eastman. Right, Jeff. It was that weird AI message. Oh, you're talking about okay, that's what he was talking about. And we speculated about the false information concerning climate and weather events. Right. Okay, so that's what he was getting to. I knew it's like ringing bells, but the way he put it, I couldn't put it together. I was like the Deborah phone. I was thinking like of an old timey phone. Like I was like, what in the um yeah, so that's another aspect of things, right? So that thing that happened, some of you probably, if you don't watch, hey Jason, no problem. Um the Cosmic Fold, which is on Wednesdays, uh Deborah Beeksma, there she is. Yeah, she's here right now. She has a channel and she's gonna come back on and talk about it with me again. But um she has a channel that me and then Helen and some, we have guests and stuff like that, talk about all kinds of bizarre phenomenon and different weird things. So every Wednesday at like 7 p.m. Central. She had this really strange experience where she was working in her office kind of area in her house and she had plugged her cell phone in. And, she was busy doing her thing, and all of a sudden she hears a man's voice talking, and she goes and walks into the her bedroom and realizes her phone has turned itself on basically, and the AI voice is saying, uh, something like, "Do you want me to switch your settings into something nicer? Like, it's 500 degrees outside and you're never gonna make it out alive?" Okay, I don't remember the second part of she had more it was more complicated than that, but to me, that was a thing that seems like, that is menacing, right? That is super menacing and very crazy and creepy, um, and it makes you think then we start talking about how, you've got I don't know if you've noticed it, but I certainly have. Since NOAA was dismantled, I have an app on my phone. It's a weather app that is directly gets its information from NOAA. It has like a NOAA feed. I have another app that's more like a local radar feed. Now the local one was always really bad. It was pretty inaccurate. It was, kind of clumsy and I it was kind of probably just wasn't getting as good a accurate information as the NOAA one. So I used to use that one, the one that had the NOAA feed all the time. It was really good. And I mean, I had this on my phone for, I mean, at least 5 years, maybe more. And it was always really accurate. So once Trump dismantled, and I guess we could say, you could blame it on, Doge or Elon Musk, but really Trump, because Trump brought him in and let him do this. And once they dismantled NOAA, and really kind of cut the funding and everything, I noticed that my app was suddenly really terrible. It was like it literally would be raining outside, and it would say there was 0% chance of rain, or it would not be raining outside and it would say it was raining outside. It was really bad. And I mean, it's substantially bad. And, it'll say 90% chance of rain and it's like clear skies. And then you like look at the radar and you're like, but there's no cloud. So why is it? It's been really apparent. And I've noticed even like local weather is not as good, a lot of this stuff. And of course, not only are they dismantling and have dismantled NOAA so that we can't really monitor the weather as well as we used to. And also, the cycles of, really extreme weather that could kill people, which is the point of NOAA. And also, the Trump regime has decided there's an infrastructure in the ocean that's been built. There's like ships with all these, like really, intense instruments that monitor the AMOC, the current streams throughout the ocean currents. And they have noticed a slowing, and that's been reported that they have found a way to sort of back engineer through AI, like a model that goes back further than the information they have, and they have seen a slowing occurring in the MUC. Okay, now the Trump regime has decided, even though it's less expensive to just let it ride because the infrastructure is built, everything's there, and it's just like really cheap to just like let it just keep giving us information. But they've made moves to remove these ships, take them out of the ocean, dismantle all of the equipment, and that's going to cost millions and millions, millions and millions of dollars to do. So it's really expensive to actually remove them and cheaper to not do that. But they're doing that. So you've got, and I think I made a video about this, but this is another aspect of things that is really concerning, is that it appears that there is a real active effort to, I believe, there's some very, very big climate change things coming, and we're seeing some of it right now. But if the Southwest were to run out of water, if the Colorado River was to go bone dry, and basically, Hoover Dam were to shut down and people couldn't get water in the West, it would be a massive catastrophe. And you know how Trump's mind works. If you don't see it and you can bullshit it, then people won't notice it, he thinks. Like how he dealt with the whole, COVID thing. It's going to magically go away. Everything's going to be great. And, climate change isn't real, right? So if climate change isn't real and you just want to keep making money off fossil fuels, and people are starting to realize, well, climate change is real, because I don't remember there being heat domes. I don't remember there being category like what would be a 6 or 7 if we had categories that went up that high. Typhoons. I don't remember, massive deluges of water and just all this crazy stuff that's been clearly happening. And we're getting to this place where supposedly, we're going to have, and it seems like we're already seeing the beginning of it, but they say that in the next, by the end of this year, we're going to be in a super El Nino. And the last time we were in a super El Nino was like 100 years ago. A lot of people died. There was horrible famines and flooding, and it raises global temperatures 3 degrees, which is, as we know, climate change over the next 50 years is, I mean, we're going to hit 1.5. I mean, that's, I think, Celsius as opposed to Fahrenheit, but which would be more like 3 degrees. And then it's supposed to go up another 1.5 by the end of the century, well, that is catastrophic. I mean, there's only a 3-degree uh, difference between us being in the ice age and now. This is catastrophic uh, change, right? Um, and it's going to get even worse if if we don't do anything about fossil fuels. It's going to double what the difference between the ice age and now is. It's going to be crazy, like catastrophic. But in the next year, 2 years, we're going to get this bubble of basically like what it will be like in 20 years from now happening now. And this could mean that we have real climate migration problems very quickly, right? So, you're living in California, you've had all the horrible fires, which you can't rebuild because you can't get insurance. Or you can rebuild, but you can't get insurance for another fire. People in Florida can't buy insurance for pretty much anything because the whole thing is slowly sinking. And eventually, Florida will be underwater completely. Um, You've got like I didn't even mention this, but the iceberg, the one they call the doomsday iceberg has already started to crack and start to melt. I'm not saying it's gonna melt in the next 5 days or the next year, who they don't know, but it's already showing signs of degradation. And you've got all these different pointers saying, "Well, this is gonna get bad, and it could get bad quickly." So if we don't have any indicators, then people will be caught up in it and won't be able to do anything. So, for example, like you're living in California, right? You had the fires, okay, you rebuild your house and you're thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to, kind of slug it out here. Well, what happens when you don't know and you're not being told? We're not being told all of what's happening in the Southwest with the water stuff. Deborah knows about it because Deborah works, in the legal field dealing with the water rights problems. Okay, so uh, all of a sudden, Colorado River runs dry, and no amount of rationing water is even going to work. Okay, maybe you can try to find others. You can't build enough desalinization plants to sort of suddenly fill the gap. And why government officials in these places don't think about these things beforehand, I don't know. Like why California doesn't have desalinization plants up and down the coast, I don't know, but they don't. So you're in a sudden massive crisis where people can't get maybe electricity, maybe can't get water. That's also a farming crisis, right? Because California, the Central Valley is like it's like the breadbasket. It's not they don't grow wheat, but they have lots and lots of cows, and they grow all kinds of things, cherry trees and walnut orchards, and all kinds of things, right? Now you have no water. What's going to happen? Well, people are going to die. Sure, people are going to die. A lot of people are going to die, and then the people that don't die, what are they going to do? They're not going to stay there. They're going to migrate into other places, just like what's happened in like, Darfur or something, or any place or a third world country where people, like in India, where people are suffering climate change already and they're moving and they're having to migrate into other areas. So if you just don't see it and people can't prepare for it, right? This is my theory is this is the dumb thinking of the oligarchs. So, well, just a lot of people will die. That'll be less of a problem. We won't have to worry about how do we deal with all this other stuff. So just let them die. And then the ones that kind of migrate, well, if they can make it out alive, then they'll figure it out. I think don't give them a heads up, right? Because if you give them a heads up, then we're going to have a big problem with all these people migrating. But if a lot of them die, hey, you know, that's fine with me. I don't care, right? That's the vibe. That's what they're basically doing. That is that is the strategy, I think. And Deborah's whole, you know, AI weird thing that happened, I don't know. You gotta wonder, is that a ghost in the machine type of thing, right? Where she's getting this warning. She does live in the Southwest, of just to kinda make her think about how they're controlling the narrative when it comes to weather. And that's what we start talking about on the Cosmic Fold is how is a narrative being controlled? Because, uh if people don't know about something, it's just like what's going on in every other aspect right now. It's like you can't turn on the news and get I mean, it's really upsetting and frustrating to watch. I mean, I look on my news feed like on and you will see one thing for one thing says one thing. One guy goes, Russia's about to collapse, all hell is breaking loose. Another one goes, you know, you know, Russia is gonna, take over Europe and everything, and they are taking over the Donbass, and they've just won all these other, territories. You what the hell, man? You can't even like, what is the truth? Like, is Russia really on the verge of collapse, or are they really on the verge of, they've won more territory and they're gonna go forward? I mean, you can't get a straight, truthful thing in any it seems like anywhere, and you just have to kinda take a patchwork quilt of different, perspectives and try to find some kind of, uh, place where they all intersect and hope that that is the closest thing to the truth you're gonna get. But the Trump regime is actively trying to throw up dust in every area so that not only do we have the problem of the internet and all of the misinformation of the that exists on social media, but we also have a totally collapsed, in my opinion, uh, you know, I mean, the fourth estate is gone, people. I mean, it's been, it's already been going that direction. It was captured by corporate interests a long time ago. Fox News was really a response to the whole uh Nixon stuff as a way to sort of program people to go along with the next Nixon that came along, the next Republican, um, corrupt Republican, which worked, and the rest of the media that was sort of marginally neutral, but always, in my opinion, was had its leanings towards corporatism and its interests were always in sort of serving the the elite 1%, always. Okay, really. I mean, not since, like, the 1960s has it, been anything else. Um, Now we don't even have that. Now we just have this misinformation machine where whatever Trump says is goes unchecked. Nobody says, "Well, that's not what the Iranians are saying." Nobody says that to him because 'cause they're afraid he's gonna have a little tantrum in his diapers and walk off, right? And they don't wanna get in trouble with their network, so they don't ask the hard questions, and we don't and they just parrot any kind of bullshit that he says, and it's like, "Really? Have you not caught on that maybe he's not a truth teller?" The first time around, the New York Times said that he, in the first month, he I don't know how many 100,000 lies. I mean, he lies more often than he's tells the truth. I mean, he literally all he does is lie. And we were well aware of that first term when there was still a little bit of guardrails, right? And now it's like the media's just given up completely. They're just like, "We don't want trouble here, sir," you know? Um, so I don't know why I went off on that tangent, but it's just, this is the world we live in now, where you guys have to talk to a psychic, where we all have to use our psychic ability and our discernment because we don't know because there's so much bullshit going on. And this is just another area of misinformation. They're going to try to lie to us about the fucking weather. I mean, what you can see in front of your face. It's like we live in a hall of mirrors, like inside of like a smoke machine or something like that. It's just absolutely absurd and insane, but that is, I think, true. I think that's probably why they're dismantling and they've dismantled all of these things that keep us safe, our food, in our situation with I mean, we're not important basically. The only thing that's important to this group of people is making more sucking the marrow off of the system as much as they possibly can, get as fat as big and fat and wealthy as they can possibly get. And if a lot of people die in the process, who cares? We're not important. We don't matter. We're just fodder. We're just peasants to be thrown, at their we're just the hordes, right? Nobody cares. And that's who we have running our government. They don't give a shit about us at all. So I put nothing past them. I put nothing past them. I think, hey, Trump, if he can get away with it, he will take everybody and put them in a camp that doesn't agree with him. Absolutely. If he can get that far, he will do it. And if he doesn't get to do it and the Democrats don't actually do their job and we don't figure out a new way, the next guy will do this. There's already little mini Trumps like cropping up here in the South. That I mean are even scarier than Trump. Okay. So this isn't going to end with Trump. This is like uh this is a Medusa, right? And unless we reconstruct the democracy into a solid, actual, real accountability machine where we actually have laws that hold people accountable and we actually we have direct democracy, we have an ironclad system of keeping this corruption out, we are going to have more problems even if Trump goes away, even if Trump were to be fall down a set of stairs or be thrown out a window by Putin, we are still going to have this problem because all of the people that surround him are just as culpable, if not more so, because he's demented at this point, than he is. And there are all these people who've seen, that's a really good strategy. I like that. We have copycat problems. It happens every time, right? So it's not going to end with him if we don't get our lesson right. We need to do something. And what I know we all go like, oh, what are we going to do? Well, I think I understand that. I mean, none of us are in like positions of power, but maybe maybe people should run for local things. I know people said that before, but maybe it's true. Maybe we also need to really rethink what we want and start to really start a conversation up and get people to understand what's going on and try to expand the conversation into structural problems instead of just this election's going to fix this because it's not and it hasn't. So there's structurally something wrong, and we need to address it. And we need to get our politicians and the people running for office to think about the structural issues. If there is going to be a political solution, it has to come from that perspective, in my opinion. And I'm glad this guy wrote this book and is helping to address that. And I hopefully he will push that into the public zeitgeist because I think he's somebody who's has got a popular following, which is great, but we all need to get on board with that, and people need to kind of put their 2 cents in and how we're gonna change it, and we need to put the pressure on anybody who's in positions of power to do those things, and if they don't do those things, like, have a major meltdown. Like, we need to be like, the Ukrainians in the Velvet Revolution where they're all out on the streets, like, demanding things. We need to demand this, from whoever gets into power if the Democrats take over, the next step isn't gonna just be like, let them do their job. Like, it's gonna be like, you fuckers do your job. Like, get in there and do the work and really dismantle all this crap and let's rethink this thing. We need to really get deep in there and get rid of the rot. And you're gonna do it, or we're gonna you know, we're gonna go in and just take over. Like, we're just gonna you know, we're just gonna put in people, we're gonna demand this stuff, and if you don't do it, then, hey, you're looking at a revolution on the other side of this if you guys don't do your job, because that's the point we're at. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, maybe I sound crazy, but I feel like, this thing is gonna get pushed to that place where if people just keep doing the status quo, there is really no other option, and nobody wants that option. Nobody wants that option. Everybody's trying to avoid that option, and I don't want that option. That would not be good. So, if we demand it and they respond, we gotta give them the chance, right, to respond and do the work. But dang, man, they've let things get really out of hand, and it's hard to trust them. It's like somebody who buys a house and just, like, trashes it and, just lets it all go to shit, and then you go, "Well, I don't want that person buying my house." Like, I don't want that person moving into, like, if over here, like, they don't take care of anything. It feels like the Democrats have that's their reputation now. That's what people think of them, and that is not does not inspire confidence, and, that's all I have to say about that. Hey, Jason, you're fine. Curious about your read on the quarter plane left in UK. What? Wait, spent to debug and left overseas. Sounds fishy. Huh. Oh, the Qatar plane. Yes, it was left in the UK? Huh. Sounds fishy. Maybe an escape car plane? That's an interesting for the robber baron Orange Julius. Interesting. I do think at some point, May, he will try to escape. I think that's exactly what's gonna happen. If he can manage to get through, this whole period of time, without, like, literally falling apart, in front of our very eyes, I definitely think he will try to escape. So that's an interesting thought. I don't think he'll do it now, though, but I think that is interesting. Maybe that is maybe there is I think you're just psychically picking up on what he's already thinking, like, "I've gotta get out of here because if I don't win the midterms and, and I'm gonna get all and I need to have a backup plan." I think you're picking up on that 100%. Lindy, May, yes, and the plane swap, he spends all his money on his gift and doesn't put protections on it. Yeah, that was something that was, like that was really, that gift, that's what the Secret Service told him. And that's what a bunch of federal agencies told him. It would literally take like 5 to 10 years to actually equip the plane the Qataris gave him with all of the stuff that comes naturally with Air Force One. I think it's probably bulletproof. It actually has I think it's shielded so that if there's a nuclear war, I mean, it's just we have been in control of it, so it doesn't have any bugs on it. It's got, like, secure it's, like, got a skiff, I think, in it probably or something like that. It is a skiff, I don't know. But it's been, like, every possible iterate thing that could possibly happen to a president has been thought of on Air Force One. Why do you think George Bush was flying around on it for hours and hours and hours during 9/11? I mean, it's safe probably safer than a bunker, you know what I'm saying? So you can't just a random nice plane, to do all of those things would take a long, long time and a lot of money, and maybe he no longer trusts the Qataris either because he's screwed up their neighborhood pretty dang bad. Trump needs help getting out of the tub in Turkey. Okay. May, right, about, maybe it's all a stage set for more insanity. Could be. He just demanded after, uh demands. Okay, I don't know what you're saying there, May. Kaylee, JD Vance, Jeff says, could be worse. I 100% agree. He definitely would be worse because he's coherent and he's not totally incompetent. And he is completely being ridden by the theocrats. I mean, he is basically just a pony boy for their agenda. In May, sounds like the fake staging of the attempted PA rally. Sounds like the okay, I see. Yeah, he's really going off on the whole people trying to kill him thing. He seems to be genuinely freaked out about it. Now, and like you said, it seems like the one in PA was some kind of there was definitely some kind of uh fake aspect to that. Uh, I don't know. I mean, somebody did die, and so but that just tells you if it is faked, you know, um, and somebody did die to fake it. It just tells you the mindset of Trump that he doesn't care about who he kills as long as he gets what he wants. Yeah. And so I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe there is some other. I think there has probably been some genuine. I mean, people do really dislike him. So more than any other probably president in history. So I'm sure some of that stuff is legitimate. Some of it's probably just turned around, and some of it is probably fake. Um, Jeff, JD is supposed to bomb Iran in perpetuity if Trump is assassinated. Oh, right. That's supposedly the order. But does he have to listen to that order if Trump is dead? I mean, he'd be president then, so I don't think it'll matter what Trump has said. I mean, that's yeah. I don't. I mean, once you've gone, then he becomes sworn in as president. He can do whatever he wants. He's the president. He doesn't have to listen to what Trump says he should do. Hey, Ruth Ann. Uh, I mean, I don't. It's just. It's like. It just. It just. This whole thing. I just feel like we have. I feel like we just have the dumbest, most ridiculous, pathological people in power that it hurts my heart, but also it's just hard to take anything that they say or do seriously. Like they're just nuts and they're really dumb as well. Maybe JD Vance isn't as stupid, I don't know. He seems a little more like he's got a little bit more, at least his brain works. But everything that Trump does and says, he reminds me of a toddler, you know, with a personality disorder, and who's just having little tantrums and just he's just so um it's mind-boggling that anybody could actually think that he was anything but what he is. I just don't get it. And it's just exhausting. I can't even listen to the dude because he's just so ridiculous. So, he can say that all he wants. He can so what? There's no law that says that if he says, and this is not to you, Jeff, but to him, like, so what? You give them instructions, they're gonna bomb you, so what? They don't have to do that. You're dead. They don't care. Why would they do what you said post your postmortem? People are just afraid of him now and they don't want to be in his sights. But once he's gone, I I can't say that anybody would follow his lead. Maybe they would. Maybe in honor of him they would do it. But it's not a given and it's a completely idiotic thing to even say, I think. I mean, it's just something a child would say, like, you hurt me, my brother's gonna beat the crap out of you. It's just idiotic. Uh, I don't even know what the point of it is. I guess he's trying to scare them in case they actually tried to assassinate him or something. Um, it's just this bullying kind of dipshitty thing that he does, and it's like, at a certain point, like, this is, it's just, ridiculous and stupid. Hey, Ruth Ann. Hey, me. Uh, yeah, they're just ridiculous. The Supreme Court gave Trump the power of kingship. Yes, they did, Jeff. May. Yes, Jeff, but only if it's a national emergency, and that's why he keeps saying things are in a national emergency. Listen to Heather Cox Richardson. Okay, I don't know what May is referring to. Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, the Trump. Oh, I see. I see. That's what she's referring to. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So, but that's okay, May, but he can declare a national emergency. And this is a really good, this kind of circles back to what I was saying, like my feeling. So what if what if he's holding back? What if he's holding back the full, oh, that's interesting. I just turned really light there. So I don't know to say that. What if he's holding back this full-fledged, massive war with Iran until the fall so that he can declare a national emergency so that he can mess up you know what I'm saying? I would not put it past him. Now, I also am very curious why he spent an hour and a half talking to Putin on July 4th. and sudden and and it wasn't long, or and at the same time, Putin's talking about, there's chatter that Putin is going to expand the war in that region, and then Trump went kinda cuckoo with bombing Iran not long after that, and now he's pulled back, and it seems like, are they trying to get on the same page with expanding the wars together to make it like a big show? I don't know, but, um, the Supreme Court, I have to look more into that because I heard that very briefly kind of as a secondary thing, and didn't hear anything else other than that. What the actually would constitute a state of emergency. But I suppose if we were in a big global war and we had, serious, like, issues with getting oil and, economic collapse, and we're taking some kind of, like, and there's some kind of a threat of being hit by a foreign power, that might trigger a national emergency thing where he can turn, he can take control of everything, and that would be the ultimate thing for Trump in terms of the midterms, right? And that makes sense. And I don't give him a lot of credit for making sense. I don't think he's very rational, but he is crafty and clever like a fox. Oh my God, I just reminded myself. I had a dream last night. I was sitting out on my porch. It was very real and with my family. And all of a sudden I saw something move, a dark thing move in the shadow. And it was a fox. And it was like not far. And I was like, oh shit. And we went inside the house. So maybe that's a metaphor for we don't see what he's doing. Okay. Trump may not be an intellectual. He may not have a high IQ. He may not be smart. He may not be um, a good person. He may be a con man and a psychopath. But like a good con man and psychopath, he's a predator, right? You don't, a lion doesn't need to pass like the SATs and do really well to know how to kill a gazelle. You know what I'm saying? He is got the kind of instincts and intelligence of a predator. I don't think that he has strategy. I think he has like this innate predatory kind of intelligence that you go towards this when you can, when it's time for the kill, and you back off when you feel like you're going to be there's somebody hunting you or you're in trouble. Now, the people around Trump are strategic, like not in a good way. They're figuring out how to dismantle everything to his benefit. Um, and that's what's so weird about this whole thing is like there is a strategy of dismantling. There is this whole dismantling going on behind the scenes. And you've got this guy who's just all over the place, like a drunken toddler going back and forth and whoa, 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 and he seems so uh inept, right? But maybe underneath that there is a strategy that he has aligned himself with Putin and he's got some kind of plan and all of the like I said, like the dismantling of all like the weather stuff is clearly, you know, uh he doesn't want the information to be known. So just shut down all the ways for people to get information. So he's not a complete he's not an idiot. I mean, he's he knows what works. He knows if he lies and he can control the narrative, the story, tell people something. That's been his whole spiel this whole life. It's his whole thing is just convincing people of things that aren't real. So if he can continue to stay in that position, and that's his kind of the way he hunts is by lying and kind of creating this chaotic thing. Then the people around him can dismantle the system so that he can keep doing that. He can keep making hay and being like the Wizard of Oz, um, but he and Putin have an aligned agenda somehow, right? We know that. I mean, they've have some kind of weird relationship. A lot of people think Putin is Trump's, you know, uh, that Putin owns Trump. I don't, I don't know at this point. Maybe, but certainly there seems to be an agreement between Putin and Trump that they're going to both carve up the world into their own NG. The supposedly, going to carve up the world into these different things for each other. I don't, not to say that's going to work, but that seems to be the agenda. Putin is going to try to take Europe. Trump is set on like invading everything in the Americas. And now we're in this war with Iran because of Israel, I guess. And Israel's agenda is to kind of take over the Middle East, it seems. So you've got all these little dictators running around. And theoretically, Putin is actually, strategically and theoretically, they are in alliance with Iran. And this makes it really interesting because perhaps uh, this back and forth thing, manipulating the markets, sure, but maybe there's also something else going on here. Like maybe they're planning, or maybe there's some kind of reason why, uh, you know, we're hearing all this kind of escalation both places at the same time, and then now we got it's gone quiet. So whenever it goes quiet, what is coming is the next escalation, right? So this leads me to believe the possibility it does exist that this is all leading up to a massive, explosive kind of real full on kind of assault, either in the time frame of the fall, if that's and now, I mean, that makes the most sense, right? I mean, if and the Court giving him the power to do something in the case of emergency makes it more likely that that's probably the time frame that this will all occur, right? Because uh, I think Putin is itching to go in and try to invade, expand his war and invade the Baltic nations and Romania. I've been saying that for a long time, and I'm sure that Trump is itchy to get whatever this whole thing is done with in the Middle East, so he can move ahead and take over Cuba and invade Canada and go to Greenland and all the crazy stuff that he's talked about. So why does it keep like being stalled out, right? I mean, yeah, the manipulation of the markets, okay. Yeah, that he's kind of getting cold feet. But and yes, there's a lot of reasons, but this but this might be the real linchpin here. This might be the real reason, is that there is some kind of an organized, assault coming that enables Trump to seize even more power. God, that is a scary thought, but it makes so much sense, doesn't it? Ugh, what a scary thought. Jackie Trent, false flag. If Iran attacks, it will be cyber. The country is brilliant. I agree, Jackie. They are very smart people. They invented mathematics, the Persians, right? I think they invented zero, the concept of zero. So, yeah, there probably will be some, but there could be other. I mean, I heard, and I don't know. Like this again, like this is something my husband told me he saw on the internet, so it may not be true. That there was some kind of drones that were Iranian drones, like near Cuba. I don't know if that's true, but we'll see. I mean, look at how innovative the Ukrainians have been under duress. Like they say, necessity is the mother of invention, right? You have to think outside your box when you have no choice. The Iranians have figured out to use the Strait of Hormuz as like their leverage point. They will come up with other strategies. They're not going to just not fight. And, you know, this is the thing. I mean, the arrogance and the stupidity, just because you have a big military doesn't mean you win. That has literally been the lesson that's been taught to us over and over again from Vietnam to what's happening with the Ukrainians. I mean, people don't just roll over and let you take over everything and destroy their world and their country, and they're going to fight you, and they're going to do everything they can to try to stop you. And there are a lot of smart people in this world, and a lot of them are a lot smarter than the people that are attacking. And when you just think you can might makes right, you're going to learn the hard way that your butt's going to get beaten. So yeah, I agree with you, Jackie. And Phelps, I got a really big hit around about border patrol in the fall and checkpoints extending 100 miles into the states from all borders to shut things down. That makes a lot of sense, Anne. I know that I think that also Helen has had that feeling too. She's been having that feeling as well. So it makes a lot of sense. And certainly if you were in the middle of a world war or this kind of assaultive sort of, oh, we're in an emergency, then hey, that would make it totally legitimate to do that and shut everything down. So I think that makes sense. Jackie, false flag. If Iran attacks it, we say, okay, my may people think that he is truthful. But the truth of the matter is he's emotionally immature and can't control his own responses. That doesn't make him truthful. It makes him immature. You're so right, May. That is a really good way of clarifying that. Yeah, there is a difference between him blurting out nasty things because he can't he's so emotionally, dysregulated, and him actually telling the truth about who he is and what his motivations are. One is emotional, one is intellectual, right? He's all over the place. He's constantly making up stories and living in a fantasy world because he is emotionally immature. And you're absolutely right. Jason, I don't know if you've ever driven around the outskirts of San Antonio, Texas, but let me tell you what dilapidation looks like consistently pretty much across the board. Wow. I haven't been there. I know that, like, in the Midwest, there's places that you're just like, "Oh my god, it looks like there was a war here." But I've never been to San Antonio. Interesting. Hey, Kathy, because Israel knows the world has turned against them, they need our military to share. Oh, yeah, I'm sure they do, but, they should not get our military, right? Um, yeah, you're right. The world has turned against them. Isn't that what the Bible says happens in the end times? And the world will turn against Israel. And thanks to Netanyahu, he has made that happen. Not to say that they were 100% great before. I mean, but Netanyahu is like Trump. He's evil. And there was a time when Israel was that really seemed like there could be a two-state solution. And that time is long gone. Jason, when the majority of your targets are the old people, women, and children in hospitals, that's a determination to wipe out the future of our people. You're right, Jason. 100%. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's no other way to look at that. I mean, clearly, they're doing exactly what the Nazis did. To them, they are doing. They have become the Nazis. Um, I mean, who would have thought that that would happen? I mean, when a people has been through something like that, it's an interesting kind of thing that you see, like, psychologically a lot, though. Um, like the native people were so oppressed and murdered and killed by the Christians, and then the Christians got the idea, let's just turn them into Christians. Let's destroy their families, put them in these boarding schools where we take away everything cultural from them. They can't speak their language. They can't believe any of their stuff. They just take everything away, strip everything from them, and make them Christian as children and treat them terribly and just destroy their soul and beat them into submission. um and really what they did was they destroyed that's how they destroyed the Native Americans, not even through killing them, but by destroying their religion. And many of them now are live in poverty, are broken by that system that oppressed them, and have converted to become Christians. And that's and they lost their culture, and that's how you break people. It's horrible. Okay, I should probably go. I've been doing this for like 2 hours. All right, I'm gonna God, there's so many good comments here though. I joined late. Did we talk about Trump firing the last 2 Dems on the, Federal Election Commission, and now the Republicans quit, so there is no federal election co No, we did not, but thank you. It's another piece of the puzzle. That is another thing, right? This is why the midterms, I just don't have the best feeling about them. Here we go. That's another piece, another chink in this whole, uh, chaos factor here about the elections coming up. EO1, they're experimenting with an aqua picnic system. Oh, okay. That's good. Lindy, I usually grow a salsa garden. I could live on chips. So yeah, that's a great idea. I love salsa too. Uh, okay, the Dems have been ineffectual, especially since Obama, Mitch McConnell, and the solidarity of the Republicans in Congress did that Supreme Court shenanigans in the 2010s when Justice Ginsburg. Yes, that's another thing they did. Refused to step down, and I mean, look, they wouldn't let him, you know, put Merrick Garland in, and Merrick Garland is like uh, Obama like couldn't put Merrick Garland in. Merrick Garland is he's the Republicans told him to pick Merrick Garland. Jason, I have it on good word from a trusted source who's close to the matter that he is no longer in the ICU and hasn't been on life support. He is going to recover, but will not be able to fulfill his position. Oh, so he's not dead. Yeah, I didn't think he was. But you know what? I don't think he's long for this world, Jason, even if he did recover. Because I feel like he's kind of like half in and half out from this world. So I know a lot of people think he was dead. So that's interesting that he's out of the ICU, but he's not all there, I don't think. He's got to have brain damage too from being in a like coma for a while, and he's already got. I don't think he's going to be here that long. Okay, Jackie, if one were a pessimist, one would think that they're going to yes, uh, unalive us. Yes, Crane, Jeff, is part of the Christian Caliphate survival of the fittest? It seems to be. It does seem to be that, right? Does seem to be. Ruthann, I saw a Twitter post. The reason it's so hot is because the gates of hell have opened up for Mitch McConnell. That's funny. Okay. Mystic Mom, The Cosmic Flow is a great show. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's fun. Ruthann, I love The Cosmic Flow. Oh, you guys have seen it. That's cool. Hey, Lynette, Jeff, Denise, how far down the line will it take for Boston and Florida Atlantic coast to be submerged? That's a good question. I don't know. I've seen the map, and Florida's gone, and the East Coast, just chunks of it, and the West Coast, but I don't know how long. I don't have a time frame on it. You know, sorry about that. I don't know. I hate it, how hot it is here. I do too. I hate it too. Can't get earthquake insurance where I live here in Santa Cruz. Nope, Jason. I know. Yeah, and people sometimes they can't even get fire insurance now, from what I hear in California. And if they can, it's so insanely expensive that you can't afford it. Lindsay, for every 1 degree rise in global average temperature results in a 3-foot rise in the sea level. Most of the world's population lives within 3-foot sea level. Yes, that's right, Lindsay. That's interesting. I didn't realize it was that correlated like that. Ruthann, so I just this dismantling ocean monitoring. Long story, they got one monitor out of the ocean and said Congress voted to deny funding for removal. Then the administration walked back the whole decision. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad that Congress got in the way of that. Lindsay, okay, she said the same. Jeff, we have a massive new desalinization plant here in Santa Cruz because of the ocean water starting to seep in to the groundwater further inland than it ever did before. It was kind of like a hurry up emergency project, gets things approved, get it built, and it is absolutely massive. I walked nightly by it and checked it out from above, and holy crap, I don't have running water here at my house, and they kind of see that as a blessing since there's so much new shit in the water, huh? You don't have running water at your house, Jason? That's not great. Um, okay, apocalyptic, Jeff says. Calvin, hey, Calvin, Jason. From my professional experience, there's a whole lot more than tech, AI, or other kinds of interrupting govern or otherwise. There are unforeseen forces that are able to show you things or play you things that you can hear on your electronic devices and speakers, namely natural forces, earth power, yeah, cosmic forces. Yes, intentions to help you. I agree, Jason. I think that's what happened to Deborah. I think whatever that voice was some kind of like spirit in the ghost in the machine, literally, right? Some kind of I think it could have been some kind of a warning to get her to pay attention to that. I should go. I should go. I've been doing this for 2 hours, so I'm gonna read everybody's things and then I'm gonna go. Okay. Um, and then thanks. Okay, everyone. Jason, I think the catch up on the chat cycle is probably about 30 minutes. But anyways, relationship to Iran and Putin and the war continuing, whatnot, and what they're saying they're going to do for what reasons, an entity that's been benefiting more than anyone else in the situation is Russia because Trump removed the sanctions against them so they can make all this money on the sale of their oil resources. And if you notice what's happening because of that, it's all of a sudden Russia had a whole lot of more weapons to bomb Ukraine with. That's true. And they did, meanwhile. We cut them off from having those protective elements and bomb stoppers. At the same time, Putin is behind all of this 100%. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Jason, for that. Okay, so Jason, about all this end game stuff, they don't have to do any of that. They don't have to waste all that time, expenditure, money, weapons, trying to check everybody down. They've made a plan already as long as all of this key fucking regiment oligarch piece of shit have made it into their bunkers at a certain time and date and they lock the doors, then they're just going to let loose all of the diseases and viruses everywhere and us and AI driven drones to single and bomb anybody else who's alive on the outside. And in addition to that, they have AI rebuild timeframes where it goes and does all the cleanup where AI robots clean up everything, burns everything, prepares the world for those assholes to come back when it's all white again. So my only strategy on this is knock the, the fuckers over. If you see them, take their keys and fast as you can, lock them in the bunkers. Uh, that's I mean, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if you're right that that is their strategy. But, and you're probably right. But, and you're probably right. That's why I'm saying there has to be people have to push back. Jennifer, 2 nights ago, I had a dream I was on a ship and black things were falling from the sky into the ship's deck. Wow. They sat there for a few seconds and started exploding. I looked to my right and I saw a group of angry men carrying weapons and running toward me. I began to run in the other direction and said to myself, I'm not going to make it out of this. I was running between these black, round, exploding discs. It was terrifying. I woke up in a coma state. Couldn't move my arms or legs for about 20 seconds. It felt like I was there and it was happening. It was a beautiful day, no cloud in the sky. Daylight. Oh my God. Jennifer, can you cut and paste that into the dream repository? Can you just like go to the top of the web, of my site, like within Substack? There's a little like search, little finder, and just put dream repository in there and cut and paste this into that because I want to add this in because I want to continue to kind of look at the patterns here. That is really awful. I'm so sorry, but please add that into the dream repository site. That is really, it seems like an important dream. All right, you guys. I love you guys. Hey, Laura. Hey, everybody. Michelle. Thank you, Jennifer. So I'm going to call it because it's been 2 hours. But I love you guys. Thanks for being here. And you guys are so awesome. And thanks for all, being part of my community. Um, and yeah. So I don't know what else to say, but thanks. Lots of love. Have a great weekend. And, you know, keep doing your spiritual work. And I'll see you guys next weekend. All right. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.